This is so exciting, guys. This is our Twilight Cup in Auckland. We've got 18 people, last person registering right now.
Taking her sweet ass time.
She is taking her sweet ass time. Look at her. What's going on, everybody? It's Blandon here again, and the Twilight Cup is almost over, so you don't really need another highlight video. So what I'm going to do to take this time, reflect on the tournament and prepare us for the Tempest Cup. You know, some of the key insights, lessons that will carry forward into the next tournament. And so with a bit of practice, a bit of luck, I was fortunate to go 5-0 at my local community Twilight Cup. So there are going to be some footage in this video. It's very interesting to see as well. You know, the PvP scene is definitely shaping up, and what I mean by this is that you can really see the key difference between the more solid players or sort of more advanced players versus some of the newer players. Some of the key things that they apply in their game, you're not going to see in the newer players. And we're sort of beyond that point where we can just go on Reddit and look for the top 10 Pokemon, slap together a team, and then try and win a tournament. There's a lot more going on now, and I think you know, it's not the paper scissors rock game anymore. Because if you're playing paper scissors rock, you know, it's obvious when someone plays a Toxicroak, you're going to play Venomoth. You know, that's a hard counter, and if you're relying on the hard counter, hoping to win, hoping that you get the right matchup, I think it's going to hurt your probability to win consistently in the long term. So it's really important to look at some of the neutral leads and switches, and you can see that in the sort of more advanced player gameplay. You know, so one of the very different thing as well, I think, with the more advanced players is that they understand their line of threes very well. You know, how do they work together? You know, things like, you know, which Pokemon to save your shields for, sort of energy gain on each Pokemon, like how many hits before they can like sort of charge up one move, as well as, you know, charging up the moves, you know, and then switching it, or charging up enough energy before they faint their opponent's Pokemon. And you're going to see some of that in the highlights. I'm going to point it out as my opponent does very well as well. I think that's going to be some of the very cool insights that you guys are going to get. And besides that as well, you know, the meta lineups, you know, it's so interesting because in the Twilight Cup you're beginning to see some of the lineups that are shaping up. You know, like the Haymaker, you know, the high DPS, you've got Golbat, Toxicroak, Azumarill, you know, those guys work really well together. And then we've got anti-meta lineups shaping up, you know, sort of. It's kind of a pity because the Twilight Cup is only for 1 month, and then you can see these lineups coming up that are really strong as well. You got the Haunter, Tyranitar, and then some of the Venomoth we saw early on. And then really interesting, one of the shield burning strategies as well, you know, leading with Quillfish and Drapion and closing with Tentacles. So you're seeing that on Reddit. Some of the people are winning with that lineup, and yeah, it's really interesting cup, this one. So we're gonna go into the footage. I'm gonna try be really critical about any mistakes that I made. At the same time, try and look at the things that we're doing right. So the 3 key things that we're gonna look out for throughout the video are these. Number 1 is, you know, farming energy. You know, the better PvP players are overcharging energy before they faint or before they switch. And the term farming energy came from, you know, playing with Hazard. Hazard is one of the top players in our community, and he's like, oh yeah, I call that farming energy. So I started calling it farming energy as well. Secondly, we're going to look at picking leads. Now, obviously, you want to pick one that's going to be most neutral against, you know, most of their Pokemon. But I'm going to show you like a really quick way that I did it in the tournament, you know, without really thinking too much about it, and then sort of, yeah, it really helped me. I'm going to show you that as well. And then thinking about the switch, you know, the third thing we are going to look at is preparing each match with a neutral switch. So switching can help you win or lose the match. So if you're taking a risky lead, you want to be switching to a Pokemon that's sort of close to neutral or doesn't lose like by a mile. You know, like say for example, you know, if you're someone's going to switch into a Azumarill, you might want to go for Golbat. You know, you can still tank one Ice Beam and then get 2 to 3 Poison Fang off with your Golbat. So that's sort of like what I mean, and we're going to show you that as well. So enjoy. So in this first match I go up against Hazard, who won the Boulder Cup as well as the free-for-all tournament that we had recently. You might see highlight in another YouTube video. So this lineup, like Tyranitar, Haunter, they were Pokemon that I've never seen, so it put a lot of pressure on me. I've done some a little bit of homework on PvPoke on those matchups, and I know I'm weak against them with Sableye weak against Tyranitar. Haunter, I wasn't 100% sure, but I know it was poison, and he probably used it to counter Toxicroak as well as Azumarill. So it was sort of like 2 counter in 1. So you can see the most frequent counters, and this is a spreadsheet that I brought along with me on my phone. I just sort of plug in the Pokemon that my opponent is using, and it sort of tells me who are some decent matchup against this lineup. So that's how I pick my lead. So quick explanation on how the spreadsheet works and how I come up with the most frequent counters. I've got my top 6 up here, and straight away I've got my weaknesses that I need to think about, and then the Twilight metagame Pokemon that I've seen from Reddit and some of the winners. I've listed them all out, and a bit of homework the night before. Go on pvpoke.com, see which of my lineup is best against those Pokemon, and then from my opponent's 6 Pokemon, I plug them in this spreadsheet at the day of tournament really quickly. Whatever they're using, I'll plug them in, and then what happens is it tells me what the first counter and second counter is. Now, first and second counter usually will beat the Pokemon, but the third counter is not necessarily a counter, but more of a neutral matchup where it doesn't actually beat it, maybe in some sort of shield advantage. Say for example, you can see Azumarill would beat Haunter if it has no shield, or close to beating it with 2 shields, or leave it with a little bit of health. So I know that would be a potential lead for me. If you can see over here, Azumarill against Skuntank, I would at least want to burn 1 shield for the closest matchup. 1 shield would actually beat it. No shield, we're close to beating it, but 2 shields, we're going to lose. So potentially what I would do here is, because Skuntank would get a 3rd charge move off on Azumarill to kill it, I would maybe just switch in the last minute before Skuntank gets off his 3rd charge move. So that's sort of how I make my decision with my lead. So over here, when it says most frequent counters, Azumarill appears 5, is probably more likely to be a good neutral matchup and a good lead. But unfortunately, I didn't trust my spreadsheet because I know Hazard's a little bit tricky, so I started off with something that I was quite confident with, which was the Skuntank. And you're going to see it was a mistake. I should have listened to my spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is a good probability. It's based on a probability, you know, so I should have listened and sort of went with it. So in match number 1, I'm thinking Hazard's not going to start with a Tyranitar. It's double weakness to fighting, but guess what? He starts with Tyranitar, and my Skuntank is getting smashed by it and I also sort of skipped 2 fast moves there. I could have got 2 crunch off. I only got 1 crunch off, so that's a huge mistake already. And I'm way behind now because my Skuntank's gone. Luckily, I still have 2 shields. Toxicroak comes out to finish Tyranitar. But Hazard is super prepared with Haunter against Toxicroak. There's no way I'm going to win, and I can't switch out Tentacruel because he still has shields. So all I can do is try and spam that Mud Bomb, and I'm going down super quick. That Shadow Punch, Hazard told me, is actually the fastest charging move in the Twilight Cup. Shadow Claw and Shadow Punch. That is super good. So there's no way I'm going to recover. He still has 1 shield against my Tentacruel, and it's GG for match number 1. So in match number 2, I lead with Azumarill. I listen to my spreadsheet. Now, this is a decent matchup. It's not bad because I can actually spam my shields to save Azumarill and take down the Haunter. Here, I shield a Sludge Bomb, which is great because that will put me ahead in energy because if I shielded a Shadow Punch, he would be a hidden energy. So here I was thinking of switching, but I didn't, and then I used the Ice Beam. Now I'm kind of nervous. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to switch because I don't want to let him get another Sludge Bomb off. But if I check PV Pokey beforehand, I would actually finish him off before he can get 2 Sludge Bomb. He could only get 1 Shadow Punch and 1 Sludge Bomb. So here I made the mistake of switching to Sableye, and you can see that Azumarill used 1 Play Rough to finish me off, but I was able to get at least 1 Power Gem off on it before I fainted. So Skuntank, this is a good matchup for me. So we're sort of down to Skuntank versus Duxtox, which is great. Duxtox does a lot less on the confusion on Skuntank, so I'm able to get 2 crunches off, so he's forced to use his charge move, and here with Azumarill I can finish it off with an Ice Beam. So the mistake here was not knowing how much energy or how much charge move the opponent can get off. If I just double checked that beforehand, I could have won this match comfortably with the Azumarill lead. Now coming into the third match, I led with Sableye because I thought he could be tricky and start with Haunter again, and that would be an instant win, but he started with Tyranitar, and it was actually safe for me because I knew if I switched to Azumarill, I don't need to face a Skuntank because Hazard wouldn't play Tyranitar as a starter and then have Skuntank in the lineup because there would be double weakness to Toxicroak. So here we're facing the Haunter again, and a mistake again, Play Rough, should have just spammed the Ice Beam. And here with Hazard, he's just trying to save up energy for the next matchup because he knows he'll go down really quick against the Sableye, and he's forced to use that Shadow Punch. And here he spams the Shadow Punch. He was hoping to get 1 more off, but he couldn't. But I think the mistake there for him was he should have shielded the Ice Beam in the beginning for the Tyranitar, and that could have made a difference. But here we got Skuntank versus Azumarill, and it's definitely win and GG to Hazard. So second match I'm up against Xlure12. He's got a pretty interesting lineup. He's got Beedrill and he's got Venusaur. I'm not too sure why he's playing Crobat over Golbat. He probably has his reasons. But looking at this, I'm pretty safe to start with Skuntank, and my cover for Skuntank is going to be Golbat, because looking at the 6 Pokemon, I'm pretty confident that the Golbat is in a good position unless facing Umbreon, and even if I'm facing Umbreon, I can spam a few Poison Fang to take out a bit of health on that Umbreon. And I play my Sableye as my sort of second cover. It's one of my favorite lines. I really enjoy playing this line because switching to Golbat is actually a pretty strong move. And over here, pretty good start, getting a crunch off on a Venusaur, and then he uses shield. Obviously he was trying to shield a flamethrower, but obviously I don't have it. But here we go, another crunch, and that should take out the Venusaur. He's saving his shield. I'm not too sure, maybe he's thinking of the Tentacruel. So here he does switch to Umbreon. Is pretty bad lineup for me, but here we go, just spamming that Poison Fang, trying to get as much damage in as possible before my Golbat goes down. So I'm not going to shield this Dark Pulse, and then here we go, just see if I can get an Air Cutter off since he's not shielding. So I do, and now he's got a bit of a energy saved up, so I'm hoping to burn his energy, and he does spam his Dark Pulse and the Skuntank goes down. Sableye should be able to finish it off with 1 foul play, and because it is facing Toxicroak and I have 1 shield, it's GG for this game. So that goes game 1. And so one of the important things here is thinking about the neutral cover from the beginning of the match. Now in the second game, I just had a really good feeling that he is going to play his Beedrill. It needs to get some game time, so I decided to use the Golbat, and here we go. And we started the match with Golbat versus Beedrill. I also put in my Toxicroak because if he switched to his Umbreon, I'll be able to bring out my Toxicroak for his counter. And here I'm staying ahead with my Golbat, just getting a Poison Fang, sorry. And then in comes Venusaur. I mean, I could have just saved up for the Air Cutter, but maybe I'm able to get some shield with the Poison Fang, and here we go, one more Poison Fang. He decides to shield. Maybe he thought I had an air cut at that time. And then I'm able to bring out my Toxic Croak, get some energy charged up, and he switches to Toxic Croak straight away. And it's pretty tough because once you switch out Toxic Croak against Toxic Croak, who's got energy advantage, you're definitely gonna lose. So that's GG with X Lures for game 2. In game 3 I have Kazuto, who I practice with, so this one's pretty tough for me because he knows exactly how I play. And so I did bring a trick this time up my sleeve, something that I didn't show him in practice, and I'm going to show you exactly what it is. So I do start off with Skunk Tank this time because it is a pretty positive neutral matchup. So here I'm going to start off with Skunk Tank and we face Toxic Croak, but I'm not too worried because I've played this lineup so many times. I let the Toxic Croak get 4 hits and then I will switch into Golbat, and then Kazuto switches to Drapion straight away, and I'm gonna spam Poison Fang. Hopefully he does shield, but obviously he knows me too well, and he's not sort of giving out any of those shields with my Golbat, so just getting that one more Poison Fang before it dies. But it did pretty good amount of damage, and here we go, I switch into Azumarill, I believe, no, Skunk Tank, and here we go, finish off the Drapion to load up on Crunch. So I believe he switches out to Azumarill, and this is the secret sauce here. I switched my Flamethrower to Sludge Bomb because Kazuto never shielded my Skunk Tank, and because of that I'm able to win because he didn't know I switched to Sludge Bomb just the night before the tournament. So that put me well ahead, and then my Azumarill is already lock and loaded for Play Rough. Gets a shield on the Sludge Bomb or Mud Bomb, and in this case it's match number 1. So here, round 2, I start off with Skunk Tank again, and I'm facing Azumarill, which is great because I'm gonna get some good poison jabs off, and I'm gonna spam Crunch here instead of Sludge Bomb because Sludge Bomb is gonna get shielded anyway. Here we go, Crunch, and I just couldn't believe he didn't shield, knowing that I got Sludge Bomb, but he probably knows I would play Crunch anyway. So here I get one more Crunch. Looking back, I should have shielded the Skunk Tank, but it's alright because we're burning his energy, and then we bring out Golbat, store up some energy, finished off with Poison Fang. I didn't want to farm energy there because if he gets another Ice Beam I have to force a shield. So here I'm sort of as a disadvantage here. Poison Fang is just not going to do enough damage to take down the Drapion. I'm going to shield here, hoping to get one more Poison Fang or maybe just that shield, but he is strong and he doesn't shield, and out comes my Tentacruel, and I'm definitely going down on a full health Toxic Croak with 1 shield. So there goes match number 2 for Kazuto. Well played. But straight away I was reflecting on how I could have done better. I couldn't force a shield on that Drapion, so what I should have done there was to use Air Cutter, and that should take out the Drapion. So game 3, here we go. We start with Skunk Tank versus Azumarill, and I am gonna be spamming Crunch because if I spam Sludge Bomb and it gets blocked, he's gonna get an energy advantage over me, and it wouldn't go down very nice. But I do make a mistake here. He shielded that Crunch, and I should have gone Sludge Bomb second time around, but here we go. We went with Crunch, and I let my Skunk Tank go down. So I know he's on neutral energy at the moment. I let my Golbat come out and see if I can get more energy. I was a little bit too greedy there, so that forced a shield on my Golbat, but we're still good, we still got 1 shield, and Drapion comes out. I'm spamming Air Cutter, he doesn't shield. I'm going to try get 1 more Air Cutter off. Here we go. He doesn't shield, and that should take down the Drapion. So now we're sort of at an advantage, and Victory Bell comes out. We're good to go with 1 more Air Cutter. Forces a shield, and then now we've got Tentacruel. Leaf Blade blocked, and now we just spam Poison Jab for the win, and that goes game 3. So match number 4, we're against Arthur. You're looking at this lineup, it's got full of poison, but because Azumarill as the lead with a couple of shields are actually not too bad, it's not going to perform poorly. So I decided to go with an Azumarill start and a Tentacruel line. So here we go, we start off with Azumarill against Muck. I treat it as a skunk tank. I haven't played too much Muck, but I know if I shielded the poison moves I should be good. I tried to switch out there, just didn't switch, and I forgot that it had Dark Pulse and doesn't have Sludge Bomb. I could have saved that shield and just tanked the Dark Pulse. And my mistake here was switching to a Sableye, because I don't have anything else to switch to, because I'm not going to switch out the Tentacruel obviously. So here I'm forced to use Foul Play, just spam as many as I can before it goes down. So he's well ahead because his Muck pretty much took half my Azumarill's health. And here I'm just trying to farm a little bit more energy and get my Azumarill ready to go with another Play Rough. So here I spam Play Rough. Obviously he is not going to shield, and go for one more. I'm going to shield. I'm going to try aim for 2 more Play Roughs, 1 here, and I should be slightly ahead on energy, but here I make the switch to the Tentacruel. I guess I just had to risk it because he still had a shield. I shouldn't have switched, but my Azumarill might go down. I wasn't too sure if I had charge move priority there. And then Venomoth takes out the Tentacruel, and he still has that shield, so Venomoth takes out my Azumarill. And that goes game 1 for Arthur, so well played. So game 2, I decided to bring in Golbat. I'm pretty confident it's a good Pokemon against his line. There's not a whole bunch of hard counters except for Venomoth. I mean, it's debatable because if I got energy gain I can take out the Venomoth. So Skuntank versus Muck, it's a pretty good matchup. I'm just spamming Crunch here, and Dark Pulse I decided to shield and then put on pressure on him by using that Crunch. Here we go, Dark Pulse, I'll tank that one, and then I should be able to get one more Crunch off, and it's a Azumarill. I spam Sludge Bomb. Hopefully I can get a shield. Great. Now he's got a pretty good energy advantage here, so I decided to bring out Azumarill and then sort of trade Play Roughs. So here we go, he gets his first one off, and then I get mine off here. Slightly ahead here. I mean, I can get one more Play Rough off, but will he shield? No, he doesn't, so he's saving the shield in case he runs into Tentacruel. Here we go, Venomoth, I'm spamming that Ice Beam. He decides to shield, great, but I don't have Tentacruel this time, so here I've got my shield. I decided to shield against the Silverwind and then just get that Air Cutter off for the win. So Golbat's been pretty good in my Twilight Cup. So that goes game 2. So in game 3 I decided to go with the same line, Skuntank, and we're facing Golbat, which is great. I'm going to be spamming my Crunch. This should force a shield. I mean, it does quite a bit of damage, and it does, and he's going to be, I'm thinking he's going to use Shadow Ball, but it was Air Cutter, which was a good shield. Here I use Crunch, and at this point I'm pretty sure he has another Air Cutter, but he decided to use Poison Fang, so I wasn't too sure why. I decided to use my shield, and out comes Azumarill. I'm able to get a Sludge Bomb off, and that should force a shield, and it does, great. So now this is my mistake here. I shouldn't have switched to Azumarill, but at the time I was thinking, well, with that little bit of health down on the Azumarill, I can get 2 Play Roughs, and if he gets 2 Play Rough, I'll be ahead. My Azumarill will still be alive, which is great. But luckily he didn't have poison that time, because if he switched out a poison Pokemon, I would have been well behind and I could have lost the match. So that was a very, very bad mistake on my end, and I'm able to take down the Azumarill, great. and the Azumarill goes down by the Venomoth, but I can just sort of play anything at this point and I should be able to take down this Venomoth with just one air cutter. So very bad switch on my end, but came out as a win because of the lineup. A good game to Arthur. So match number 5, very interesting lineup. We're seeing Togetic, Ivysaur and Tentacruel as well, and I am thinking, yeah, go with my spreadsheet, start with Skuntank, so that's what I decided to do. So round 1, Chopping Frogs decides to start with Golbat. Great, so we're pretty familiar with this lineup now. We're spamming Crunch, and then we're going to try shield any Shadow Ball. Obviously he's just tapping away to use his Poison Fang, so I didn't shield. So that was one of the key things that I think is very important with the Golbat, is to sort of keep your opponent guessing by charging up both moves first. So here we go, I'm not using any shields at all, and I'm able to force a shield on the Golbat. Great. Happily let my Skuntank go down since I still have 2 shields. So here we go, Sableye comes out, and it's still Poison Fang, and at this point I'm just thinking, does this Golbat actually have a Shadow Ball? But here we go, we use 1 shield on Sableye, and I'm switching to Golbat against Azumarill, because I know Poison Fang, I mean with 3 of them I should be able to take down the Azumarill since he has no shield. So here we go, we got 1 more Poison Fang before he can get the Ice Beam up. I should be able to still tank that Ice Beam, even though it's going to take majority of the health off, and my Golbat goes down, but Foul Play is ready to go with Sableye, and then I'm sort of got 2 charge moves saved up, and then straight away for the Foul Play to finish off the match. So that's GG game 1. So here in our final match, I decide to use Golbat against Ivysaur. So we're well ahead right now, and he switches to Azumarill straight away. I'm pretty happy about this matchup because I've already got 1 Poison Fang loaded up, but I'll switch out to Skuntank anyway for a much stronger advantage. So here we go, tank the Ice Beam, go for 1 more Crunch. He shields, great. So I'm going to try and finish off with Poison Jab. I mean, most people might be pushing that Crunch button, but here we go, I got my Crunch loaded up for the next person, and Toxicroak comes out, eats a Crunch straight away, and now I'm pretty good. I'm pretty comfortable. You know, Sableye is going to take out the Toxicroak, so is the Golbat. So I'm just going to save my shield, spam that Foul Play, and that's going to force the shield. So here we go, got some energy gain on the Sableye, and then go for 1 more Foul Play before it goes down, and in comes Golbat to sweep. So that goes game number 2 with Chopping Frogs. GG. Concludes our Twilight Cup. Hopefully you enjoy that. Some of the key lessons again, number 1, very important to pay attention to energy gain and sort of when to store up your energy for the next match. As you can see in game 1 against Hazard, he's trying to charge up his Haunter, trying to finish off my Sableye with 2 Shadow Punch at once. So that's one of his strategy, and a lot of the pros use this kind of strategy as well. Number 2, choosing leads. I mean, there's an easy way to do it. You know, just do some homework beforehand, use a spreadsheet, VLOOKUP. It's such an easy formula. You guys can just Google that. Otherwise, you can just sort of have a look at my spreadsheet and just check it out. And then lastly, thinking about the switch from the beginning. You know, if you're going to play this lineup, play this lead. If you're going to take a risky lead, like say for example Toxicroak, who is going to cover that? And when you switch to that cover, are you going to get hard countered? You got to look at their lineup and see where's the most neutral lineup, and that is very, very important. So hopefully you guys have some good insights there, and you guys are already preparing for Tempest Cup. I'm going to have some content coming out for that as well, just sort of exploring and going to show you guys some highlights. Until next time, if you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll catch up again. See ya.